Warning! Some idiots online, but not idiots level. Wow!
What's up, guys? It is Noodles and Ramazania. Buongiorno, bonjour, yasastapadiamu. Today, I was scrolling through my YouTube feed actually a long while ago, and I saw this video called No, You Can't Learn Perfect Pitch Like Charlie Puth by Charles Cornell. And I know that Charles Cornell is a jazz piano player, so he knows his fair share about music. Charlie Puth makes like pop songs, so like One Call Away. That's all I know. Not my type of music, but to each their own. And I thought this video would be pretty interesting to react to on Some Idiots Online, because we haven't posted in like 2 months. I promise we'll be more consistent with that. No! So yeah, I'm excited to react to this video because in recent months I've actually somewhat mastered the art of perfect pitch. I don't want to say mastered, but I've made progress in it, and I'm 18. So technically, based on the research I've done, that shouldn't be possible. And this guy says he doesn't have perfect pitch either. It says that you can't learn it like Charlie Puth, who I guess has perfect pitch. So we're gonna react to this and we're gonna discuss. So yeah, let's get started. There's probably some interesting points in this video that I will want to bring up. So let's go.
I do not have perfect pitch. In fact, it's estimated that only 1 out of every 10,000 people actually do have it. So what
Is it that rare? Because in my lifetime, I've met like 2 people. It's not a lot. So is it really that rare? And also possibly me? Maybe? I mean, I haven't mastered it fully, but let's continue.
What actually is perfect pitch? And if I don't have it, how am I able to do this?
Yo.
Oh,
What note is this?
That is an A, I believe. Yeah, A. Sticking in a long time. Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
hey, all right.
Yeah.
Hey.
You just watched me think for
A. I guessed it was an A.
Oh, brother, this guy's...
That took him a really long time, though. Way longer than I did. Way longer than I took.
a moment and decipher what a pitch actually was and get it right. With no
I didn't
point
have
of
to do
reference,
all
no
that.
instrument to test it out on. I just heard it, thought about it for a moment, and knew what the note was. But I don't have perfect pitch. Well, what's the
right.
difference? What's happening here versus what perfect pitch actually is? Probably one of the most famous and popular examples of a person with perfect pitch is, of course, Charlie Puth. And we've talked about Charlie a few times on this channel. In fact, our video about this exact video that you're seeing now, we did a couple years ago and it did pretty well and it was quite a bit of fun.
Yeah, the interview. I actually watched that
kind
video.
of hilarious. But what you
I
just
watched the
watched
interview
me
video.
do is very different from what Charlie does here.
I can't recognize like multiple pitches at once like that. I don't know.
It's 3 notes. E, G, C.
This guy
Stinks!
I watched the video about the interview. This guy, the interviewer, is so cringy. Oh, this video is
Stinks!
Version of a C major triad. So a C major triad is
Talent, ladies and gentlemen.
just studied.
Notice how
just study. He's just so done with life. Bro, just study the pitches until you get it. I don't think it's that easy, but okay, Charlie Puth.
what you just saw. Charlie didn't think for a second versus me.
No, he didn't.
I had to think about it. So what's going on in his brain and what's going on in my brain? Let's figure that out. And just before we get started, I want to remind you, you just have a
Shadow Legends.
Charlie Puth has perfect pitch. And the best way that I've ever heard perfect pitch explained is in reference to colors. Many, if not most of us, know what it means for a person to be colorblind. It does not mean they see in black.
I'm actually okay. So I'm blind, so this part is gonna be interesting because when I was little, I could pretty much distinguish colors just fine. I used to draw a whole bunch, but as time went on, I've really lost the ability to distinguish between colors. So like if you hold up a purple marker and a blue marker, I might have some trouble differentiating them, or like if a car passes, I won't be able to see the color of it. And I mean, I still could, but it would take me a while to like really analyze the car. I can't just look at it and know the color. Like obviously, if it's a black versus white car, I can tell the difference between black and white. But if it's like a silver car, I can't really see the difference between white and silver.
in black and white, it simply means that certain colors are harder to distinguish. You might know somebody who gets reds and greens confused or blues and purples
Yes! That's the example I just gave. That's funny.
confused, whereas if you have normal vision, there's no way you would ever confuse
But I'm not colorblind, I'm just blind, so.
the two. Well, you can almost think of the 1 out of 10,000 people who have perfect pitch
There's no way it's that rare, bro!
as hearing music in full color, whereas the rest of us are kind of colorblind to some degree. We're gonna do a little bit of a test as a comparison, and I want you to see, if you see in full color, how easy it is for you to distinguish colors from one another.
Oh boy! I'm not gonna be able to do this, am I?
Go ahead and just tell yourself what color you see right here.
It looks green, but it could either be red. I think that's... Is that red? Yeah, I think that's red. It's looking red to me. But maybe green. It's probably green. It's either red or green.
Here. Then we'll switch to this,
Yellow?
and then we'll switch to this,
Blue?
and finally we'll switch to
Yellow again?
this. Now, there's probably no chance that your brain didn't go red,
Oh, it is red! Okay, cool.
green,
Oh, that's green.
blue, yellow.
Okay. Well, I got one wrong.
You probably didn't have to think about it at all, because when you look at
That's embarrassing.
red and when you look at blue, they're just different. You
Yeah, red and blue still look different to me. They still look different enough. There's no way I'm confusing red and blue.
simply see it and you know exactly what it is. And that is basically what perfect pitch is. It is hearing music in full color. Now, to probably the vast majority of you, including myself, this note
C,
and this note,
E flat.
we can tell one's higher than the other, but
But, okay, so for me, the C and the E flat have a distinct quality to them. Like, the note has a texture, if that makes any sense. An E flat sounds fundamentally different from a C. And also, my synesthesia sees the notes differently as well.
we don't necessarily, there's no inherent qualities about any
There's a texture to it, for me at least.
of those notes. It's that,
C.
that,
G, B, bleh, I almost said B flat. No, just regular, B natural. Something. Is that an A? And then is that C sharp? And then I know for a fact it lands on E. Okay, so like I said, I haven't fully mastered the art of perfect pitch. I haven't fully mastered it. I only can recognize E, D, C, B, A, E flat, B flat. Did I say E flat already? Other than that, I think the only notes I can't recognize are F, F sharp, and G. Oh, and G sharp. I can recognize a G sharp, also known as an A flat. G sharp, I can recognize as well. So there's only like 3 notes on the piano that I can't recognize, but when they're in rapid succession, like what he was just doing, it's a bit hard for me because I'm still not.
those notes qualities about any of those notes. It's
C,
that,
G,
that,
B for sure. Something. A. That, whatever that was. Wait, was that a C?
the inherent
Hold up.
qualities about any of those notes. It's
C.
that,
G, B. No, that's not a C. But it ends on. Oh wait, yeah, that is a C. C and then E. Oh my gosh, I'm stupid. But yeah, that other one was an A. So it ends on E. E is the most comfortable note for me. I can recognize E all day long, day in, day out. I can recognize E.
those notes, they're just notes on the
If those are the wrong notes, I'm gonna be so embarrassed.
Los pingüinos me la van a mascar.
piano. They don't sound necessarily different from one another unless, of course, we're
They
hearing
do,
them in
though.
succession like I just played. And probably you're able to tell, oh, well, we went up and then down and down and then up and down and down. But we didn't hear each one as red, green, blue, yellow, whatever, right? That C
Yeah.
and this E flat,
flat, yeah.
have a completely different sound. And
They do. They sound completely different.
it's an easily distinguishable one for people with perfect pitch. And it is estimated that only 1 out of 10,000 people can do this. And Charlie Puth is, of course, one of these people, and that's
So I actually, hold up. I actually have a cup. That is a B. I think. Yeah, it's a B. I don't know if you guys can hear that. But when I hit the cup, that it's a B. And then I have a smaller cup. Don't ask why I just have a bunch of glass cups in my room. Sounds like an A to me. Yeah. Sure, if these are the wrong pitches, I'm gonna look so stupid making this video.
and that's why he can do this.
If I hear, can you play a C? A C sharp is no. Wow. And an F sharp is and then a B is and then a G
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
is G.
See, he can sing. I can only sing like an E and a B.
It's certainly fascinating to people who don't have perfect pitch, but the reality is when you put it in the framework of like, oh well, you know, he has the ability to hear in the same way that we see colors. It kind of becomes a little bit less fantastical, I guess. And I love when people like test it.
It's still cool though.
That's what was so. Oh my god! I mean, think about how hilarious it would be if we were just like, "What's this color? What's that color?"
Charles, what note is this?
Oh wait, pause.
F.
F.
Yeah, baby, let's go. Yeah, it's an F.
C.
F.
Yes! So we've talked basically about how perfect pitch works, but we still haven't answered the question of how I'm able to do what you just saw. Now you may say relative pitch is the answer, and to
That's completely different.
some degree you would be correct. It's not the full story, but let's quickly touch on what relative pitch is. All that stuff we were doing earlier when we were demonstrating the notes and how you and I likely, unless you're the 1 out of 10,000, we don't hear distinguished differences between individual notes, but rather we can hear when notes go up and down and we know, oh, this one's higher than that one.
That's how I used to hear. That's how I used to hear notes.
Is relative pitch. Relative pitch is simply the ability to distinguish one note from the other in terms of which note is higher or lower and how far away did we move. Now,
See, I can't do that. I don't have any type of relative pitch. I can't tell how far we've moved. And that's like, we're talking about higher or lower, which I can do, but like I don't know anything like a perfect fifth above whatever.
relative pitch
Like a G is a perfect fifth above a C.
is an important process in what you just saw, but it's not the full story. So there's a common question that gets kicked around a lot, and it is simply, can people learn perfect pitch? Now, I'm going to make an assertion and say no. In an article on UChicago News published in
See, okay, but I disagree with this because he took, in that A example, he took forever and it took me like a second. So, I don't know. And I started learning this when I was like 17.
2015 discusses a study that actually tested whether or not adults could learn perfect pitch. And while the results are fascinating, I think this study highlighted some interesting things about what perfect pitch actually is and why I believe that people cannot learn it. Essentially what this study did is they tried to ingrain notes into the participants' minds so that they could recall them and recreate them without any reference point.
Okay.
Now again, if we reference our conversation about color, we can sort of imagine a study that attempted to do the same thing with individuals who have some form of color blindness. If we look at this image, which demonstrates the difference between normal vision and one form of color blindness, you can imagine how this study may have
Can't see it.
been conducted for color and not for music. All we would have to do is simply draw an arrow between the actual color and the reference point that people with this particular type of color blindness would see, and try to get them to memorize the difference between these selected shades. The only way to be able to recount them. Remember, you could theoretically train full color vision in this manner. The difference is that somebody comes out with their eyes and just not able to pick up certain colors. You're not magically turn it on. The same way it's not inherently able to distinguish between pitches. You're not magically turn it on. However, what you can do, and what this study essentially did, is mimic the way that I have developed some manner of
Okay, so this is okay. Okay, no, you know what? I'm just gonna let him continue, and then I'll give my thoughts.
not perfect pitch, but ability to remember certain pitches from memory.
So how did you think about that?
So what? The Miles Davis thing. So what?
How did you figure that one out?
You referenced the song.
Okay, so that one my brain went right to an old recording of All Blues by Oscar Peterson, in which I know it's da bum ba dum dum ba dum bum. And I remember that one's like locked in my brain. So I went from there to ba ba, which is what that note was.
Yeah.
What's up?
Let's test this on you guys. I'm going to play 3 examples of something you know very well, and I want you to pick which one you think is correct. Pause the video.
I don't know what song that is, but I liked the sound of the second one the best. I like the sound of the second one the best. I don't know what song he's playing.
Chances are the vast majority of you probably picked number 3, and you would be correct.
Really? Really? Okay, well, I don't know the song, so I don't have a reference point to that. But I really like the second version.
Beginning of Bohemian Rhapsody is in the key of B flat. Now,
Okay, well, I guess I don't like B flat then.
why did you inherently know that that was correct? Is it because you have perfect pitch? Well, there's a 9,999 out of 10,000 chance that you do not. If it's not perfect pitch, then why is it? Well, probably because you've heard that song so many times that there's no way.
Haven't heard it once. So he's just saying that he went through and he played a note so many times that he's just able to remember it, or he used a song as a reference point, which is kind of what I did, but I'll get to that once this video is over.
And this right here is the key to developing the closest thing that you probably can develop to perfect pitch if you don't inherently have perfect pitch.
Okay.
And that's not perfect pitch, but it's a form of pitch memorization that if you then use relative pitch, you can pretty much identify any note that you want simply by intervallic relationships. So I don't think you can learn perfect pitch. I feel that it's something that you inherently either have or don't have. However, I do think that you can absolutely ingrain numerous pitches on your brain through a series of memorization and repetition and time. Understanding chords and intervallic relationships is far more important than simply being able to identify which ones they are on the fly.
Okay. All right. So I want to tell my story on how I memorized. So, okay. The first note I ever memorized was... So, okay. Is this it? Yes. Okay. So, I was messing around. I have a Yamaha clavier, and I was messing around one morning. So this was like early morning. I was in VC with my friends. Cap, you've seen him on the channel before, and I think Quinn. No, I think this was before Quinn was back in the server. But I was in VC with some friends, and I was just messing around with my clavier, and I switched the instrument to number 141, specifically 141, and I started hitting the notes, or, you know, hitting the keys on the keyboard, just kind of messing around, and I was like, oh, these are the sonic trumpets. And I hit one specific note, and it just snapped in my brain. Like, I feel like something physically shifted in my brain, and I heard this. Right here, this. That first note, that really long E, I heard that. I played that note on my clavier, and it snapped in my brain. I'm like, oh, I've heard this in this specific video. And I ran and I got my laptop and I played it, and it was the same thing. E, F, G, C, E, F, G, C, D, E, G. My singing is terrible. But I heard that and I played it, and from then on, I was just able to recognize E on the fly. I didn't need a reference because it just like sure, I'm recalling it from that specific part of Labyrinth Zone, but it separated in my brain, and now I can just recognize E everywhere. And so that's how I started being able to recognize E. And then from then on, I did the same thing with B. So if I pull up results deconstructed, this one is going to be really quick. That first note, that's a B. And from then on, once I learned that that was a B, I was able to recognize B. So that's how I recognize B. And then A. So A, E flat, and G sharp both come from my own song, actually. Well, not my own song, but my own arrangement of a song. Yes. Yes, okay. So this is my own rendition of Sonic 3. And then if I go... Okay, so that first note, it goes G sharp to G. And to complete the Andalusian chord, at the like the 5-1 resolution at the very beginning of the song. So yeah, G sharp to G. So that's how I get G sharp, not G for some reason. And then so I was just a little bit of ahead, but that is E flat, C, D, B flat, E flat, C, D. And that gave me E flat. So it's not helping me with the rest of the notes, but it's helping me with the first note from each melody. So yeah, that's how I've gotten where I have. So that's pretty much every note I can recognize, and that's F and G and F sharp sound the same to me. They all sound the same to me. And then D, I just use relative pitch. D, I haven't found anything to help me master it perfectly, but D is just regular pitch, or not regular pitch, relative pitch. I can just tell it's like one below E and one above C. So yeah, that's so kind of the same as him, only it doesn't take me as long because the more I hear these notes, I start separating them from their respective songs that they've come from, and I can start recognizing them independently of each other. And then, like real life examples, like the cup that I hopefully showed you guys earlier, hopefully you guys heard that, I can recognize it in like real life examples. So, I don't know. And I started doing this when I was 17. Once I had that first epiphany, like, oh, that's an E. And I started recognizing E. It was just kind of all downhill from there, or all uphill, whatever. And I was able to recognize most notes, and I think the more I listen to it, the better it'll get, as long as I do it in a timely fashion, because I know there's a point where your ears just become too developed and you just can't, it's impossible for you to recognize pitches. But maybe it has something to do with me being blind is why I can recognize them faster. It's definitely not perfect pitch. Maybe it's quasi-perfect pitch, or blind pitch as I like to call it. I don't know, but I just think it's kind of fascinating how all this stuff works in our lives. All this development stuff, like in your brain. And I don't know, but that's my story with it. And I think the guy in the video, Charles Cornell, brought up some pretty interesting points about perfect pitch. But yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I was entertaining enough. And I'll try and have this out. Today is Friday, March 7th, 2025, and I will try and have this video out later. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. This is Noodles, Nramazanya, and yasas.